people's champion. Our mission is love. Our vision is love. Jamaicans for justice. The people's champion. Justice, justice for all. Justice under the law. Justice, Jamaica demand. Right to life, right to liberty. Justice, justice for all. Justice under the law. Justice, the people demand. Right to life and security. Oh, what a joy. Oh, what a peace. How great this country could be. Respecting your rights. Respecting human rights. What a wonderful nation this could be. How come many we are one in a Jamaica? Make it a better place for the boys and girls. Created equal by the creator. For equal rights and opportunities. No to unlawful detention and police brutalization. Class, gender, race or religion. We not tolerate discrimination. Justice, justice for all. Justice under the law. Justice, Jamaica demand. Right to life, right to liberty. Justice, justice for all. Justice.
Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Justice. We're happy to be here another week and we thank our listeners for joining us certainly. My name is Michael Jackson, Executive Director of JFJ.
And my name is Jade Williams, the Policy and Advocacy Specialist at JFJ.
Just want to remind persons, of course, that they can join us by watching us on our YouTube channel and, of course, joining the Bridge 99 via their radio wavelength. But you can also WhatsApp your views at 239-7583. I hope I got the number correct. That's 239-7583. That's correct.
Right. You're getting it.
I shouldn't be speaking from memory, but anyway. All right. So we're just going to start our conversation this week by looking at usually, oh, by the way, I must say before we get into the formalities, last week Jay deserted me, but we want to welcome her back into the fold of the human rights conversations. Nevertheless, we were joined live with you, Faulkner, Commissioner of Indicom, and he ably supported and he filled your chair nicely while you were out.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Faulkner.
All right, so we're just going to be starting the conversation with understanding what happened with the human rights issues of the week. And I think for purposes of discussion, we will focus only on the announcement that was made by the Prime Minister from Jamaica House this morning at what should have started at 8:30, but I think the conference started sometime after 9, given the Prime Minister had some other meetings. But what was important for us in this discussion was that 7 parishes were declared within the state of public emergency.
Yes.
And
quite a significant number.
Yes. And 5 of those 7 parishes, St. James, Westmoreland, Hanover, St. Catherine, Clarendon, the entire parishes are under a state of emergency, and parts of Kingston and St. Andrew. And that is instructive for us to note. 5 of 7 parishes are fully under a state of public emergency. And 10 of those police divisions, according to the announcements made at the Jamaica House, had 72 murders and 75% shootings. And the Commissioner, Anthony Anderson, went on to note that as of November 13, we had 1,360 murders in the country, which represented 6.8% compared to last year of this time. And I think we should remind ourselves that last year overall, the murder rate in the country stood at 1,463. So we're seeing that we're not on the right trajectory at all. Now, there are some other things that we noted through the announcement this morning, Jade and listeners. One, the Commissioner said that 71% of the 1,360 murders came from gang-related crimes, and 16% came from interpersonal violence.
Yes.
So I think there are clear justification for us to certainly improve our crime fighting. But I want to be very clear to the listeners that JFJ stands in opposition of the state of public emergency being utilized as a crime fighting measure. We absolutely oppose it in the manner in which it is being utilized. No, that is not to say that SOEs aren't constitutionally provided for. It is. It is under Section 20, I believe,
Yes, you
of
are
the
correct.
Constitution.
Yes, it is section.
However, it is not for routine crime fighting
Yes, there are
measure
specific parameters
to be
under the
used.
Constitution.
Yes?
Yes.
And of further note and concern is that we have several communities still that run adjacent to Zozos operating in these parishes. For example, when you look at Kingston, I think you still have Zozos in Westmoreland, if I'm not mistaken. But the question one asks, what is the success and the human rights issues that we see coming out of state of emergency? I have to wrap up in a minute. But I think these things we have to look out for. I remember John Clark, our board member, he spoke on behalf of the organization, and he noted that one fingerprints, photographs, and so on that were collected by persons under the SOEs, we don't know what became of it. Were they destroyed? How will the police be able to utilize your data?
Which is something that we hope that they would say in the regulations, how this data is used.
But that's a bigger issue.
Yes.
If this SOE, I'm assuming, based on the expiry date of November 29th, that it commences tomorrow and not today. But the government apparently has not learned its lesson, because if you're announcing a SOE, I would ask that you put forward a regulation and learn from the embarrassing mistake that they made the last time, where the regulation was filled with grammatical errors and other issues when it was tabled the last time, and the government had to withdraw such shameful regulation. Apparently they have not learned their lesson, and we think much more is needed from the government if you're putting forward these things. So we're urging the government, put forward a regulation so persons can ensure that it adheres to your constitutional rights, especially where one half of the island is under a SOE at this moment. And we reiterate our call for body cameras. I can go much more, but
Yes.
in the interest of time, I will turn over to Jade.
Absolutely. And as much as I would love to hear some more, because I wish we could change the topic of the show, because this came this morning, I would have hoped that we would have heard about it sooner. But we go straight into our right of the day, which is today focused on child rights, in line with our topic for the day. And today's right of the day states that every child has the right to parental protection, safety, and care. And this is applicable whether this is your biological parent, meaning this parent is involved in your creation, or they're your adopted parent, or even foster parent. So a child, whether under any of these circumstances, is entitled to parental protection, safety, and care. And we go straight into our trivia. You can respond to our trivia question by sending a WhatsApp message to 876-239-7583, or you can comment on our Instagram. And the trivia for today is, which international treaty guided the development of the Child Care and Protection Act of 2004 in Jamaica? So respond to that, and you can win $2,000 credit from your network of choice. I'm sorry, $1,000 credit. My producer is letting me know I erred there. $1,000
You're getting people excited, yeah?
Yes.
And I don't think we had any winners from last week, did we?
No, and,
no.
and that's unfortunate.
I think the producer, our communications officer, Karen, too bright, too sharp.
Too complicated questions for our audience.
So JFJ staff, we need to check ourselves a little bit whether or not we're asking people these academic exercises rather than real trivias. But while we're on the state of emergency, one of the things that came up in that conversation was around youth involvement in gangs. And I think it segues nicely into our topic this week, that we'll be looking at diversion, restorative justice, and how we prevent our youngsters from going down the wrong path, so to speak.
Absolutely.
And we're going to be joined later on by Mr. Warren Thompson and Senator Gabriella Morris. Now, we note that November 1st of this year, Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson, who was speaking at a digital press conference, indicated that 875 of the major crimes which were committed in Jamaica from 2019 to 2022 were carried out by children, mostly between the ages 15 and 17 years.
When we examine children as the perpetrators of major crimes, some concerns begin to emerge. By definition, a child is a person below the age of 18 years, but bear in mind that most of the perpetrators in this category are between 15 and 17 years old. Let's examine the 4-year period, 2019 to present. Children have been charged with 875 major crimes in Jamaica. There have been 79 murder charges, 66 for shooting. A total of 175 children have been charged for rape over the period. There have been 256 charges for breaches of the Firearm Act, 175 for break-ins, 89 cases of robbery, and 65 for aggravated assault.
Mr. Anderson stressed that more collaboration is needed between the police and other state agencies to curb the crime problem. And he revealed that while the police are doing youth interventions through the Community Safety and Security Branch of the Jamaica Constabulary Force and via the Police Youth Club program, other stakeholders must get on board to curb violent tendencies in children from an early age.
Now, the matter of parental involvement in crime has certainly come up, with the National Parenting Commission also indicating that 92% of parents were not able to effectively communicate with their children, and others have been calling for greater psychosocial support and skills-based interventions to deal with youth involvement. And we heard the Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, speaking on November 4th at the Edward Seaga lecture regarding this matter.
If there is one thing that I would want to see in legislation is the full introduction of a system of apprenticeship. I think that's absolutely important if we're going to leapfrog in where we are in terms of skills. Absolutely important. And then I've always been a big advocate for national service. And I think we need a system of compulsory national service. When I see our youngsters being dragged off into gangs and being recruited for nefarious activities, when there's so much that we could put them in groups to do in the national interest, in their own interest, that could transform our culture.
In its advocacy, Jamaicans for Justice has called for updates to be provided on how the child diversion program is being implemented, as well as what efforts there have been to reform the Child Care and Protection Act. We've also called for further school interventions, and especially in those areas where there have been special operations to address the issue of youth involvement in gangs.
Now we're going to take a break, and then on the other side of the break, as we indicated earlier, we're going to be joined by Senator Gabriella Morris and Mr. Warren Thompson of the Child Protection and Family Services.
Leave our children alone. I'm telling you to leave our children alone. Hey, this is Randall Positive, and you're in tune to Bridge 99 FM, bridging the gap non-stop.
Imagine your advertising dollar reaching your Caribbean and diaspora target beyond borders in a single rotation. It happens only on the bridge. Call now to advertise 876-669-5000.
Hi, I'm Ronald Thwaites, and I'm the host of The Public Eye and The Open Mind on the Bridge 99 and Irie Jam in the tri-state area. This program will tell you the truth about life back a yard. Fair, open talk. No gossip, no slander. We want to listen to your concerns. Also want to help you with your problems in JA. We at The Bridge rate you and affirm our oneness as citizens of this blessed land we love. So join us now on Wednesdays on The Bridge, crossing the waters, linking Jamaicans and Jamaican lovers everywhere.
Bridging the Caribbean gaps across the globe on social media. We are Facebooking, IGing, TikToking, and Twittering at The Bridge 99 FM.
The Bridge 99 FM and Irie Jam Radio, in collaboration with PRETC, presents Make a Child Smile this Christmas. Join us as we deliver the magic of Christmas to the Maxfield Park Children's Home in Kingston. Be a part of this heartfelt event and help us deck their tree with your donations of unwrapped toys, books, gift cards, and clothing for children ages 6 to 18 years old. Donors like you have always made the difference. To place your gifts under the tree, call the Bridge 99 FM at 876-669-5000, 876-669-5000, or Irie Jam Radio New York, 718-723-4743. That's 718-723-4743. Let's all spread festive love and joy and make a child smile this Christmas.
Bridge FM of the whole place lock, them off the whole place lock. Anyway, them play, me said them a lot that. Mother mean. Hey, Bridge! Some radio stations say they big, but them not hot. Them go get sweet, big and not hot.
The people's champion, Our mission is love. Our vision is love. Jamaicans for justice.
Hi, welcome back to Let's Start Justice. Remember to keep up with the discussions, and you can call us a little later on at 6764996, or you can WhatsApp your views at 2397583. We have joining us to discuss the matter of youth and preventing them from going down the wrong path of criminality. Mr. Warren Thompson of the Child Protection and Family Service Agency, as well as Senator Gabriel Morris, who is the opposition spokesperson on youth. Good afternoon, lady and gentlemen.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Michael. Good to see you again.
I'm joined by Jade Williams, our policy and advocacy specialist. Thanks to you both.
Oh, hi, Jade.
Hello.
Let me start with you, Mr. Thompson. What is the role of the CPFSA when you talk about helping our youngsters from going down this path when we look at the offenses outlined by the police commissioner recently?
Right. So the main mandate of the Child Protection and Family Services Agency is to respond when a child is in need of care and protection. So, of course, we work with children who are abandoned or children who are victims of abuse, or those who require state intervention to ensure that they are provided with care and protection. Now, children enter the justice system for various reasons. And certainly those, many enter because they're in conflict with the law. Now, at the CPFSA, we get a lot of reports for children with behavioral problems. In fact, in previous years, we would get the majority of our reports would be for children who are being neglected. But we have seen that being surpassed by children being reported for having behavioral problems. And we believe that the behavioral problems are connected to the situation that we have with crime in Jamaica. And we have tried a number of interventions. Certainly, through our child and family support unit, we have tried, of course, the standard counseling. We have had behavior modification programs. In fact, we're currently trying to pilot a particular kind of behavior modification program that we hope to replicate, certainly within the among the children in care population. We're not always able to reach the children who are not in care. Children who are in the general public, unless there's a report that this child presents with a behavioral problem. So that is where we come in terms of trying to address the behavioral problem before it spirals and before that child becomes a criminal. Now, I said earlier that we have seen, or we believe that there's a connection between the child presenting with a behavioral problem and the and the crime rate.
Yes.
Because one of the things that we observed from about 2017 or so was that in the areas where there's a flare-up or there was increased gang activity, and the state response was through the ZOSOs and the state of public emergency and so on, we were seeing increased numbers of children with behavioral problems in those parishes. So we were seeing, for example, in Westmoreland and St. James and so on, increased reports for children with behavioral problems. And at the same time, we're seeing the state, certainly in the crime fighting response, declaring states of public emergency in some of those parishes or zones of special operations and so on. So there's definitely a connection. And one of the things that we're trying to do, certainly in the child protection sector, is in the reforms or the amendments to the Child Care Protection Act, is to see the child presenting with a behavioral problem as a child who is in need of care and protection. We believe that behavioral problems are, certainly there are some structural issues, but for the most part, we believe that there is an antecedent. It is a manifestation of another issue, and we try to get to the heart of that issue.
I'm going to have you pause 1 second, Mr. Thompson, because we're going to certainly go quickly into some reform ideas within the Child Care Protection Act. But just to go to you, Senator Morris, before I turn over to Jade, what is the reaction in your capacity as opposition spokesperson on youth when you listen to the commissioner speak about the types of crime and the offenses that are often committed by our youngsters? What is the parliamentary opposition's reaction, or just generally, how do you feel about what you heard?
Well, thanks again for having me on, Nikhil, and good afternoon to you and Jade and your listeners and Mr. Williams. The figures that he put forward are certainly alarming. Um, and for me, it brings into sharp focus a desperate need for us to actually get some action behind this issue of violence among our young people. I think for far too long we've talked about it, we've put in piecemeal approaches, but there's been no real fulsome plan that incorporates agencies such as the CPFSA,
Yes.
agencies like Jamaicans for Justice, agencies that would deal with mitigation, agencies that will deal with mentorship, skill training. It has to be a fulsome approach, and I think that has been the proposition of the opposition for a very long time. Having a fulsome approach to crime, having short-term goals, long-term goals, medium-term goals, and looking at it in a 360 kind of view. Because the truth of the matter is that crime will not be fixed just with a SOE. And I'm concerned about the government's fixation on that particular crime fighting tool or their use of it as a crime fighting tool. What I think is important if we really want to get our young people on track is having that wholesome approach. Looking at, yes, stemming the violence in the short term, but also looking at ways that will allow them to earn, that will allow them to uplift themselves. I think that that is an important part of the solution that is often ignored or that is often not given as much attention as the strong arm crime fighting tactics. So for me, it's alarming, but even more so, it signals that we need to step to an action phase now more than ever and try to coordinate a lot more of the efforts that we're putting into this issue.
All right. Jane, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Senator Morris. But my first thought, and I don't want to lose it, was with Mr. Thompson. And I wanted to ask, you mentioned that CPSF, Child Protection and Family
CPFSA,
Services
yes.
Agency, has
We
often...
missed CD. It was much easier.
Yeah, right? Yes, they have often, you've implemented some of these interventions already. So I guess my real question is, what have you observed is the effectiveness of the interventions that currently exist in these, you mentioned two scenarios. You mentioned children who are presenting with behavioral problems but have not yet risen to criminality versus those who have risen to criminality. So I'd want you to answer twofold. In terms of diverting them from the criminal activity, do the current interventions work? And when you intervene after the criminal activity, do the current interventions work? What is the effect?
Right. So we don't necessarily intervene after the criminal activity.
Ah, okay.
So, that's when it goes over to, child diversion and, the probations, that kind of response.
Mm-hmm.
But we have seen significant success, certainly, because we call it our child and family support unit. They serve a gatekeeping function, and the function is to prevent the children from going before the court, both for, if there's a behavioral issue that can become a criminal problem later on, as well as to prevent them from being taken before the court for being in need of care and protection. So we try to address the needs of the family and prepare the family to be better able to provide care, to protect, but certainly to ensure that the children are in a structured environment that limits or mitigates their engagement in criminal activity. I'm not able to say at this point in terms of empirical evidence how successful we have been, but I can definitely say that that gatekeeping it's very impactful. It has been working, but we have seen the need for more intense behavior modification programs. So we have had, for example, behavior modification camps and those kinds of things. But one of the things that we are doing at the moment is piloting a behavior modification program that, we got a consultant to come on to design a program for us, and we are piloting it. We're starting with children who are actually in residential childcare facilities, but we're hoping that later on we'll be able to implement that program with youngsters who are not yet in the system, but the program would be mitigating intervention to prevent them from coming into the system.
Just as a follow-up question, Mr. Thompson, based on the behavioral modification program, and I will soon segue to Senator, because I listened to a proposal that was outlined by Senator Damian Crawford as well, that spoke to risk factors at the family, community, and the individual level for youngsters. And I'm surmising that perhaps it's similar to the behavioral modification program that you have outlined. But I think my first question to you first, Mr. Thompson, what age group are you targeting, just for clarity? And secondly, outside of state institutions, what is the partnership type and level is with both the Ministry of Justice, perhaps, as well as the Ministry of Education? Are you involved in schools?
Right. So let me answer the first question first. The current program, the pilot is targeting teenagers. So we're working in facilities that provide care for children, 12 years old and up. So that's where we have started. It doesn't mean that we will not, work with children younger in the future. No, that is for the pilot that we're doing. But in general, our behavior modification program, we work with children, any person under 18, all children. Yes. And our interventions may include doing things like play therapy for the younger children, or using play to get the child to examine their own behaviors and the motivating factors for those kind of behaviors. But I want to say, though, that we have within the sector the National Plan of Action for an Integrated Response to Children and Violence. And that program, which is a multi-sectoral plan of action, is a part of the Global Pathfinders Initiative, the End Violence Campaign. And the aim, of course, is to reduce incidents of violence against children.
Mr. Thompson, sorry to cut your thought. We're just going to take the break, and I'm going to ask both you and Senator just to hold with us for a few more minutes after. We're going to take the break and follow up with you. Thank you.
Right.
With KFC, there is no winning flavor. They're all finger-licking good. Order a meal deal or Family 9 bucket in original recipe, hot and spicy, or barbecue. The time by KFC is
1:30.
Calling all bridge builders to the Bridge 99 FM, your global partners for outside broadcasts, connecting you from Jamaica to the world.
Where will we go? From Kingston to Portmore, downtown, Spanish Town, Canada, USA, and as far as Dubai. We keep you connected across the 7 continents of the globe.
Call us at 876-630-3153 for information about partnering with the Bridge 99 FM.
That's 876-630-3153 to take your outside broadcasts to the world. Bridge 99 FM, live terrestrially in your territory and also online at thebridge99fm.com.
Yo, my general. Government run gun amnesty, you know. Better bring in the whole of the strap them, the whole of the shoes them, the matic them. But I see, if you're not carrying the thing them now, you know, when the amnesty are done and them catch you with a gun of 15 years to life, you know, brother. Better you take talk, do the right thing and turn it in. A message from the Firearm Licensing Authority of Jamaica, an agency of the Ministry of National Security.
VP Records MRE presents hot new release by artist Robert French entitled Every Day of My Life. Every day of my life will be just loving you. Spend the rest of my life always just loving you. Every day of my life will be available on all social media platforms. For booking, contact MRE at 876-868-5266. Every Day of My Life.
KFC, original, hot and spicy, and barbecue.
They call me the original, cut the hard way, no corners cut, to live life the fried way, 11 herbs and spices. They wanna take a bite, I'm just a little tangy, but a whole lot of spice there, yeah.
This and the barbecue and the flavor and the taste, yeah, and we all like the place, yeah.
With KFC, there is no winning flavor. They're all finger-licking good. Order a meal deal or Family 9 bucket today. KFC, it's finger-licking good.
Watch the man, you don't know this advice idea and present for the Bridge 99 FM connecting. We said that station, yeah, a leader. I will say, give him like a time, a like a feature. Under the moonlight and sense of me, yeah. The Bridge 99 FM, Diana representing.
The people's champion. Justice, justice for all. Justice.
Okay, so welcome back to Let's Start Justice. We are joined by Senator Gabriella Morris and Mr. Warren Thompson of the Child Protection and Family Services Agency. We were just speaking with Mr. Thompson before the break about the multi-sectoral response under the National Plan of Action. Can you just finish that thought for us, please, Mr. Thompson?
So I was just saying that while the main aim of the plan is to reduce violence against children, it addresses a number of areas of social life, basically attempting to strengthen institutions, strengthen various kinds of structures to prevent children from also becoming perpetrators of crime. And we're very much aware that a lot of children who experience violence at the hands of other children, whether through bullying or other more serious kinds of offenses. We, in terms of working with the Ministry of Justice, you'll be aware of the Child Diversion Act and the Child Diversion Committees in various parishes. And the aim of the committees, or the aim of the program, is to divert children who are in conflict with the law from the penal system. So where a child commits a particular kind of offense, then that child is taken through a kind of program to rehabilitate in a sense, but to basically change the behavior. Now, the CPFSA sits on the Child Diversion Committee in every parish. Because very often a child who is in conflict with the law is also a child in need of care and protection. And there are particular kinds of services, including therapy and other kinds of psycho-emotional interventions that we would do from the CPFSA, or would provide from the CPFSA for some of those children who have committed diversion offenses. And of course, we fall within the Ministry of Education. So we provide support to schools, not necessarily in a formal structured program. But the National Plan of Action for a Response to Children and Violence actually sits within the Ministry of Education. The Ministry of Education is actually the if you want to call it, the secretariat and the process holder for the implementation or the coordination of the implementation of that plan.
Okay. All right, very, very good. So I hope you're part of the, what is the program called announced by the Minister of Education recently, the MEDZIT?
The MEDZIT. Yes. Once it's children, the CPFSA is there.